A 14-year-old girl picks up a kitchen knife to save her mother's life, and the man who dies is her mother's mobster boyfriend. That's not a movie plot. That's real Hollywood history, and it's just the beginning. Behind the glamorous gowns and studio-approved smiles, Golden Age Hollywood was a world of secret marriages, stolen husbands, hidden sexualities, and love affairs so wild they'd break the internet today. These weren't just actresses, they were rule-breakers living lives far bigger than the screen could ever show. Let's start with the story that ended in bloodshed. Lana Turner's discovery story sounds like a fairy tale. A teenager sipping a soda at a Sunset Boulevard drugstore, spotted, and turned into an overnight star. Her tight sweater earned her a nickname that stuck for life, the Sweater Girl, and MGM turned her into one of its most bankable names. But the real drama in Turner's life happened far away from any film set. She walked down the aisle 8 separate times, married to 7 different men, prompting one sharp-tongued observer to joke that her love life was like a sweater, pulled on, pulled off, and pulled on again. Gossip columnists never had to look far for their next Lana Turner headline. But nothing could have prepared the public for what happened in 1958. That year, Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, grabbed a kitchen knife and fatally stabbed her mother's boyfriend, mob-connected Johnny Stompanato. It sounds unthinkable, but the ruling was justifiable homicide. Crane had stepped in to protect her mother from Stompanato's violent abuse in the middle of an attack. The scandal threatened to end Turner's career overnight. Instead, something remarkable happened. That same year, Turner delivered one of the finest performances of her career in Imitation of Life, and it became a massive box office hit. Friends described her as warm and generous, a hopeless romantic who never stopped chasing true love despite 8 failed attempts to find it. Her career stretched across 4 decades, eventually landing her a new generation of fans on the primetime soap Falcon Crest. If you think a mobster's violent death is as dark as this list gets, wait until you hear about the actress whose fame came at the cost of her own body and mind, pushed to the edge by the very studio that made her a star. Before she was ever over the rainbow, Judy Garland was a child being handed pills by grown adults who were supposed to protect her. Born Frances Ethel Gum, she was thrust into stardom by an ambitious, controlling stage mother and signed to MGM at just 13 years old. From that moment, her life was never fully her own again. The studio worked her mercilessly, often filming 2 or 3 movies simultaneously, and to keep her thin and productive on that brutal schedule, they fed her a steady diet of pills, some to wake her up, others to help her sleep. It was a system engineered for output, not for the well-being of a teenage girl, and it set the stage for a lifetime of addiction she never fully escaped. Off-screen, her personal life became just as chaotic as her professional one. Garland walked down the aisle 5 times, and each relationship drew intense media scrutiny. According to biographies written by people close to her, some of Hollywood's most powerful men repeatedly pursued her, adding even more pressure to an already overwhelmed young star. Despite the turmoil, her talent never dimmed. Her performances in The Wizard of Oz and A Star is Born remain some of the most beloved in film history. But behind the songs and the applause was a woman fighting a war inside herself, one that included multiple suicide attempts throughout her life, a devastating testament to just how much pain the industry's grueling machine had left behind. Garland's story is heartbreaking, but she's far from the only Golden Age star whose glittering image hid a painful secret buried by her own family. Our next actress carried a devastating truth about her own father, one her daughter wouldn't reveal until decades later. She was marketed as Hollywood's love goddess, the ultimate 1940s pinup, her sultry hair flip in Gilda becoming one of the most iconic images in cinema history. But the woman behind that dazzling on-screen fantasy was carrying a wound the public never knew about until long after her death. Born Margarita Carmen Cancino, Rita began performing as a child in her father's dance act. Early in her career, studio executives decided her Latin heritage didn't fit the image they wanted to sell, so she endured painful electrolysis to raise her hairline and dyed her naturally dark hair a fiery red, literally altering her identity to become more marketable. Her love life looked glamorous from the outside. She married 5 times, including unions with legendary director Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, making her Hollywood royalty, quite literally, years before Grace Kelly ever wore a crown. But none of those marriages brought her any lasting happiness. The real gut punch came out years later, when Hayworth's daughter with Wells, Rebecca, revealed publicly that Rita had been sexually abused by her own father as a child. It cast an entirely new, heartbreaking light on why she may have struggled so deeply to find stability and trust in her relationships with men throughout her adult life. Behind the glamour goddess image was a woman who never truly had the chance to heal. Hayworth's private pain stayed hidden for decades, but she wasn't the only star forced to keep a devastating secret buried out of fear. Our next actress hid an entire marriage from the public, terrified it could destroy everything she'd built. Inger Stevens seemed to have it all in the 1960s: Swedish Beauty, a hit television role in The Farmer's Daughter, and film credits alongside stars like Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds. Her career was rising fast, but there was something about her life the public wasn't allowed to know, a secret she had to protect at any cost. In 1961, Stevens secretly married Ike Jones, an African-American actor and producer. Given the intense racial tensions of that era, the couple made the painful decision to hide their marriage entirely, fearing that going public could instantly end her career. It's a devastating reflection of just how far progressive Hollywood really was behind its polished public image. The truth only came out after she died. Behind the scenes, Stevens was also fighting a private battle with depression that had haunted her for years. She had already survived a suicide attempt back in 1959, and for a while it seemed like she had truly recovered and moved forward with her life and career. Then, on April 30th, 1970, at only 35 years old, Inger Stevens died from an overdose of barbiturates. Her husband, Ike Jones, had to fight an exhausting legal battle just to be legally recognized as her widower, eventually winning his case in court. It's a quietly devastating story, a woman who had to hide her own marriage out of fear, only to lose her life far too young. Secrecy and heartbreak defined Stevens' story, but our next actress's private life became the stuff of presidential-level rumor and legend, with a mystery man who claimed her long after she was gone. Few names in entertainment history carry as much mystery and myth as Marilyn Monroe's. Born Norma Jean Mortensen, she became the ultimate blonde bombshell, a symbol of beauty so powerful that her personal life became just as famous and just as scrutinized as her acting career. According to biographer Darwin Porter, long before she became a household name, Monroe had a brief relationship with a young, struggling actor named Rock Hudson. The story goes that Monroe advised him bluntly that they both needed to connect with more powerful people in the industry if they wanted real success, advice Hudson reportedly took seriously, going on to pursue relationships with major stars throughout his rise to fame. Monroe's own romantic life was constantly the subject of speculation involving some of the most powerful men in America. Her marriages to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio and celebrated playwright Arthur Miller made headlines, but nothing compared to the rumors surrounding her alleged affair with President John F. Kennedy, rumors that exploded into legend after her famously breathy rendition of Happy Birthday at Madison Square Garden. What often gets buried under all that gossip is just how sharp Monroe actually was. Tired of being trapped in dumb blonde roles, she walked away from her restrictive studio contract, moved to New York to study serious acting under Lee Strasberg, and then did something almost unheard of for an actress at the time. She started her own production company. Monroe proved that even Hollywood's most photographed woman was far more complicated than the headlines ever let on. But long before Monroe, another stunning actress broke just as many rules, chasing a married man across Europe with zero hesitation about who got hurt. Vivien Leigh will forever be remembered as Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind and Blanche DuBois in A Streetcar Named Desire, her beauty making her practically irresistible to every leading man she shared screen with. But her real-life love story reads like something far more ruthless than anything scripted for her. The moment Leigh watched Laurence Olivier perform on stage, she reportedly turned to a friend and declared he was the man she was destined to marry, despite the fact that she was already married to her first husband, Herbert Lee Holman, at the time. For Leigh, other people's feelings often seemed almost disposable when she wanted something badly enough. Olivier was married too, but that didn't slow Leigh down for a second. She actually followed him and his wife to Capri while they were on vacation together. Not long after, Leigh and Olivier began a relationship, even while his wife, Jill Esmond, was pregnant. Olivier eventually left his wife, and he and Leigh married shortly afterward, blending scandal directly into their fairy tale Hollywood romance. Their marriage ultimately ended in divorce in 1960. Leigh went on to date actor John Marivalli for 7 years before her death from tuberculosis in 1967. Along the way, she was also romantically linked to major names including Marlon Brando, Elia Kazan, Orson Welles, and several others. What many people never realized was that Lee battled serious mental illness for much of her adult life, likely what we would recognize today as bipolar disorder, a condition with virtually no effective treatment available during her lifetime, which only deepened the turbulence already surrounding her personal relationships. Lee stole another woman's husband without a second thought, but she wasn't the only Golden Age star who tore apart a best friend's marriage and shocked the entire industry doing it. Elizabeth Taylor's violet eyes and undeniable talent made her one of the most photographed women alive, but it was her personal life that consistently dominated headlines more than her 2 Academy Awards ever did. And no chapter caused more public outrage than what happened with her best friend's husband. Taylor began openly dating singer Eddie Fisher while he was still married to actress Debbie Reynolds, who wasn't just a colleague, but one of Taylor's closest friends. The betrayal played out in tabloids nationwide. Fisher eventually ended his marriage to Reynolds, and he and Taylor got married shortly after. It was, without question, one of the most talked-about scandals of the era. Here's the twist most people don't expect. Taylor and Fisher eventually divorced too, and afterward, Taylor felt genuine, deep remorse over how badly she'd hurt her friend. She reached out and offered Reynolds a sincere, heartfelt apology, and remarkably, the 2 women rebuilt their friendship and remained close for the rest of their lives. That marriage to Fisher was just one chapter in an extraordinary romantic history. Taylor married 7 times total to 6 different men, including marrying actor Richard Burton not once, but twice. After her final divorce in 1996 from construction worker Larry Fortensky, she finally decided she was done and stayed single until her death in 2011. Despite a lifetime of headlines focused on her marriages, Taylor refused to let scandal define her legacy. She later became one of the most powerful advocates for AIDS research in the world, raising millions of dollars for the cause, and using her fame for something far bigger than gossip columns. Taylor's story ended in redemption, but our next actress's story ended in a tragedy so strange that Hollywood gossip actually got the details of her death completely wrong. Known to fans as the Mexican Spitfire, Lupe Vallés lived a fiery, unapologetic life and met a tragic, misunderstood end. For decades, cruel Hollywood rumors circulated about the circumstances of her death, rumors that her own secretary later insisted were far from the truth of what actually happened. Before that tragic ending, Vallés's most defining relationship was with actor Gary Cooper, whom she dated for years and reportedly called the love of her life. Their relationship was intense and volatile. Vallés was known to be extremely jealous, repeatedly accusing Cooper of cheating on her with other women, keeping their romance in a near-constant state of turbulence. Vallés was never shy about her passionate, bold personality, both on screen and off. Rumors swirled that she had been involved with hundreds of partners throughout her lifetime, and she never seemed interested in hiding or apologizing for the intensity with which she lived. Professionally, she thrived throughout the 1920s and 1930s, becoming a genuine box office draw, most famously starring in the beloved Mexican Spitfire comedy series as the fiery character Carmelita. Her larger-than-life energy translated perfectly to the screen, even as her real-life relationships stayed just as dramatic and headline-grabbing behind the scenes. While gossip and rumor have often overshadowed the conversation around Lupe Vallés, her genuine talent brought real joy to audiences during Hollywood's golden years. Her legacy deserves to be remembered for far more than the sensationalized stories about her final days. Vallés's fiery reputation was matched by another blonde bombshell whose off-screen relationships were just as talked about, including one connection to a controversial religious figure that shocked fans for years. Jayne Mansfield lived like she was determined to keep her name in every headline possible, and by most accounts, she succeeded spectacularly. Second only to Mae West in terms of sheer romantic notoriety, the platinum blonde bombshell became instantly recognizable for her hourglass figure, famously photographed, giving Sophia Loren quite the eyeful during one now legendary public moment. Mansfield was rumored to have been romantically involved with President John F. Kennedy for a period of time, adding her name to the long list of Hollywood stars connected to the powerful political figure. But her most infamous and unsettling relationship involved Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, though LaVey didn't publicly claim their relationship until after Mansfield had already passed away, leaving the full truth forever murky. Before any of that, Mansfield built her fame as an early Playboy playmate, successfully turning that initial exposure into a genuine film career. While critics often dismissed her as simply a Marilyn Monroe imitator, Mansfield had a distinct appeal all her own, and she was far sharper than people gave her credit for, reportedly boasting an IQ of 163 and fluently speaking 5 languages. Her incredible life came to a devastating, sudden end when she died in a car accident at just 34 years old. In her brief but blazing time in the spotlight, Mansfield packed in more romance, publicity stunts, and headline-grabbing drama than most stars manage in a lifetime twice as long. From a Satanist's secret claim to something even stranger, our next actress went from movie star affairs with married men straight into becoming an actual real-life princess. Grace Kelly is remembered today as the definition of elegance, the actress who became literal royalty when she married Prince Rainier III of Monaco in 1956. With only 11 films to her name, she's still considered one of the most sophisticated icons the golden age of Hollywood ever produced. But before the tiara, Grace Kelly knew exactly how to have fun. It started during the filming of High Noon, when Kelly began a romance with her co-star Gary Cooper, a man 28 years her senior, who was married at the time. That pattern, falling for older, married men, would repeat itself again soon after. While filming Magambo in Africa, Kelly had an affair with fellow Hollywood legend Clark Gable, another significantly older, married man. Kelly later claimed she'd taken the Magambo role primarily to work with director John Ford and to experience filming in Africa, but few believe the pull of working alongside Clark Gable wasn't a major factor too. When asked directly about the affair, Kelly reportedly responded with a knowing wink, essentially asking what else there was to do, alone in a tent in Africa with Clark Gable. Her list of romances didn't stop there. Over the following years, Kelly had flings and relationships with Bing Crosby, Marlon Brando, Ray Milland, and Oleg Cassini. She even dated Prince Ali Khan, leader of the Nizari Ismaili Muslims, a preview, perhaps, of the royal life waiting just around the corner for her. By the time she met Prince Rainier, Kelly was clearly ready to settle down after years of thoroughly enjoying her freedom. Her fairy tale wedding was watched by an estimated 30 million television viewers worldwide, and her bridal gown influenced wedding fashion for decades afterward. Kelly's love life was wild before it turned into a fairy tale, but our next actress's romantic history was so extensive that even film historians have given up trying to count every man involved.